The US just banned an entire AI model from being used anywhere in the world, and honestly, it's way more interesting than it sounds at first. So stick around because this decision is going to change how governments think about AI regulation forever, and it affects way more than just one company. Let me back up for a second. In early 2024, the US Commerce Department made a pretty shocking move. They essentially blacklisted a Chinese AI model called DeepSeek from being used by American companies and citizens. Now, you might be thinking, okay, so what? But here's the thing. This isn't just about one model or one company. This is about a much bigger battle happening right now between the US and China over who controls the future of artificial intelligence. DeepSeek is a large language model created by a Chinese company. If you're not familiar with large language models, think of them as the brains behind AI assistants like ChatGPT. They're trained on massive amounts of text data, and they can answer questions, write code, have conversations, basically do a lot of the things you'd expect from a smart AI. DeepSeek was actually pretty impressive. It was fast, it was efficient, and get this, it was free for anyone to use. You could just go online and start chatting with it right away. But here's where it gets complicated. The US government didn't ban DeepSeek because it was bad at its job. They banned it because of where it came from and what it might mean for national security. See, the US is deeply concerned about China gaining too much power in AI development. And I mean, think about it from their perspective. AI is going to shape basically everything in the next couple of decades, from military technology to medical breakthroughs to how we work and live. If China gets ahead in AI, that's a huge problem for US influence and security. Now, the specific reason they cited was something called foreign adversary-controlled technology. What that means is the US government believes this AI model, even though it's a tool you use in your browser, is ultimately controlled by the Chinese government or serves Chinese government interests. That's a pretty serious accusation, and whether it's true or not is actually up for debate among experts. Here's something wild though. DeepSeek isn't some sketchy tool that steals your data or anything. A lot of security researchers actually looked at it and said it was pretty clean. But the US government's concern isn't really about whether it's malicious. It's about the principle of the thing. They're worried that by letting Chinese AI companies build tools that billions of people use, China gains influence, data, and strategic advantage. Every person who uses DeepSeek is essentially interacting with a Chinese-controlled system. The ban itself works like this. American companies can invest in or help develop these Chinese AI models. Americans technically can't use them either, though let's be real, that's pretty hard to enforce when it's available online. But the bigger impact is on American businesses. If you're an American company, you have to choose: use Western AI models or face legal consequences. Now, why does this matter beyond just, oh no, I can't use this one AI tool anymore? Because this is the beginning of a tech Cold War. The US and China are basically dividing the world into two different AI ecosystems. The US has its models, OpenAI, Anthropic, Google. China has theirs, DeepSeek, Baidu, Alibaba. And the rest of the world is going to have to pick a side or build their own. This also signals something important about how governments are thinking about AI regulation. For a long time, the AI conversation was all about ethics and safety. Should we worry about bias in AI? What about privacy? Those are still important. But now we're seeing governments care even more about geopolitics and control. Who owns the AI? Where is it built? Who has access to it? There's another layer here too. The ban is partly a response to how good Chinese AI has gotten. DeepSeek surprised a lot of people. It was competitive with American models, sometimes better in certain tasks, and it was way more efficient. That's actually scary to the US because it suggests China might be catching up faster than expected. So the ban is also a way of saying, we're going to slow you down and make sure our companies stay ahead. But here's the thing that makes this complicated. Banning technology doesn't always work. History shows us that. When the US tried to restrict other technologies, they often just got developed elsewhere or people found workarounds. Plus, if you ban something, you also stop learning from it. American researchers could learn from DeepSeek's approach and get better ideas. There's also a fairness question here. Is it right for one government to ban technology from another country just because of geopolitical concerns? Some people argue that free trade and open access to technology is better for everyone. Others say national security has to come first. It's genuinely complicated. What's really interesting is how this affects regular people like you and me. If the US successfully creates a separate AI ecosystem from China, you might end up in a world where the AI you use depends on where you live or what country your company is from. That could mean different AI experiences, different capabilities, and less innovation because these ecosystems aren't sharing ideas. The other thing to watch is how other countries respond. Europe has been building its own AI regulations. India, Japan, Canada, they're all figuring out their own approaches. So we might end up with 3 or 4 different AI worlds instead of one global internet. That's a massive shift. There's also the question of what's next. Will the US ban more Chinese AI models? Will China retaliate by banning American tech? We're already seeing signs of this kind of tit-for-tat stuff with chips and semiconductors, and AI might follow the same pattern. Here's my take on it. The DeepSeek ban is less about DeepSeek specifically and more about the US drawing a line in the sand. It's saying, AI is too important to let another superpower control. That might be smart from a national security perspective, but it also means we're entering an era where technology is increasingly fragmented by geopolitics. And that has real consequences for innovation, freedom, and how we all interact with AI. The lesson here is that AI isn't just a technology question anymore. It's a political question. It's a national security question. It's a question about power and influence in the 21st century. And governments around the world are making big decisions right now that will affect which AI tools you can use, how they work, and who profits from them. So this ban, it's not the end of the story. It's the beginning. We're going to see way more of this kind of thing as countries realize how important AI is. The real question is whether this fragmentation is good or bad for the world. I genuinely don't know, but I think it's worth paying attention to. If you want to stay on top of how AI is reshaping geopolitics and technology, you should definitely subscribe. I break down this stuff every week so you can understand what's actually happening instead of just reading scary headlines. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.